Poor mother takes her daughter for a walk with no money, but a young billionaire sees everything and does something unexpected. Sunday arrived, as it always did for Nathan Pierce, empty, silent, predictable. He walked through Central Park with his hands in his coat pockets, watching the families scattered across the lawns. Children ran between the trees while their parents chatted on wooden benches. Dogs barked, people laughed. The world turned around him, but Nathan felt completely outside of it. At 35, he had everything money could buy. A penthouse in Manhattan with a view of the river, cars that cost more than an ordinary family's home, stocks that grew in value while he slept. But here, among couples holding hands and children playing, Nathan felt like a ghost observing a life that was never his. It was always like this on weekends. During the week, meetings and business kept him busy. But when Sunday came, the silence of his penthouse became deafening. That's why he came to the park, not to connect, but to remind himself that he still existed. Nathan stopped near a sweet cart. The vendor, a middle-aged man with a broad smile, was arranging colorful donuts in the display case. The sweet smell floated in the air, mixing with the scent of dry autumn leaves. It was then that he heard the voice, "Mommy, I wanted a donut." Nathan turned instinctively. The voice was small, delicate, filled with the kind of honesty that only children have. A blonde girl of no more than 5 years old was pointing at the cart, her blue eyes shining with desire. She wore a little pink jacket that had seen better days and sneakers with small holes on the side. Beside her, a young woman held her hand gently. Jenna. Nathan didn't know her name yet, but there was something about her that immediately caught his attention. Blonde hair tied back in a simple ponytail, green eyes that seemed to carry more weight than they should. Her clothes were clean, but clearly not expensive. There was a quiet dignity in the way she stood, as if she were used to facing difficulties with her head held high. "I'm sorry, sweetie." Jenna knelt down to the girl's level, her voice soft but firm. "Mommy doesn't have any money right now." Nathan saw the child's expression change. It wasn't a tantrum or a scene. It was a silent acceptance that hurt something inside him. Chloe just nodded and held her mother's hand tighter, as if she wanted to comfort her too. "It's okay, Mommy," the girl said, her voice small but brave. "We can just look." Nathan felt something stir in his chest, a strange pang, as if someone had touched a wound he didn't even know he had. How many times in his life had he bought things without even thinking about the price? How many donuts could he buy without even noticing it in his budget? And here was a little girl who accepted with such grace something he considered insignificant. Without thinking too much, Nathan approached the cart. "2 donuts, please," he said to the vendor, pointing to the most colorful ones in the display. "One with pink sprinkles and one with chocolate frosting." The vendor smiled and packed the sweets in a small paper bag. Nathan paid and turned towards the mother and daughter, who were watching the scene without understanding. "Excuse me," Nathan said, approaching slowly. He didn't want to scare them. "Sorry to interrupt, but I have an extra donut here." He held out the bag to Chloe, who looked first at her mother, then at him, her eyes wide. "For me?" she asked, incredulous. "Of course. I can't eat 2 by myself." Jenna immediately tensed up. Nathan could see the suspicion in her eyes, the way she instinctively pulled Chloe closer. It was a reaction he recognized, that of someone who had learned to be cautious with strangers, especially those who offered things for free. "You don't have to," Jenna started, but Nathan interrupted her gently. "Please, it would be a favor. I bought 2 without realizing." It was a lie, and everyone there knew it. But sometimes a kind lie was more beautiful than the raw truth. Chloe looked at her mother with those immense eyes, silently asking for permission. Jenna hesitated for a moment that seemed to last an eternity. Nathan could see the internal conflict, pride fighting against the desire to see her daughter happy. Finally, Jenna nodded. "You can thank the gentleman, Chloe." The girl took the bag as if it were a treasure. "Thank you, mister." Her voice was filled with a pure joy that made Nathan genuinely smile for the first time in weeks. "You're welcome, little one." Nathan expected Jenna to say something, but she just murmured a quiet, "Thank you," and started to walk away, holding her daughter's hand. It wasn't coldness, it was protection. Nathan recognized the gesture of someone who couldn't afford to trust easily. He stood still, watching them walk away. Chloe bit into the donut and exclaimed something to her mother, pointing to the colors of the sprinkles. Jenna smiled, the first real smile Nathan saw on her face, and nodded when her daughter offered her a bite. Nathan turned and started walking in the opposite direction, his hands back in his pockets. But something was different now. The park seemed the same. The families were still playing. The dogs were still barking. The world was still spinning. But something had changed inside him. It was a knot in his chest. Not of sadness exactly, but of something he couldn't name. Maybe it was the way Chloe had accepted her mother's no without a fuss, or how Jenna had fought to maintain her dignity even in a difficult situation. Or maybe it was just the fact that, for a moment, he had felt useful in a way that nothing in his billionaire world could provide. Nathan spent the rest of his walk thinking about those blue eyes full of gratitude and those green eyes full of caution. When he got home, his luxurious penthouse seemed even emptier than before. The silence echoed off the glass walls, reminding him that all the money in the world couldn't buy the one thing he truly wanted: a genuine connection. He sat on the Italian leather sofa and looked out the window. The city stretched out before him, but Nathan couldn't stop thinking about a little girl who had turned a simple donut into the best gift in the world, and about a woman who had taught her daughter that it was possible to be grateful, even when life didn't give you everything you wanted. Nathan slept that night with a strange feeling, as if something important had happened, even though he didn't know exactly what. It was the kind of restlessness that is born when life presents us with a first page we don't know if we'll want to read yet. Nathan spent the whole week thinking about them. It was ridiculous, he knew. A 5-minute interaction with two strangers shouldn't take up so much space in the mind of a man who managed a business empire. But there he was, in the middle of a board meeting, remembering the girl's blue eyes and the mother's cautious smile. On Thursday, during a video conference with investors from London, Nathan found himself wondering if they would return to the park on the weekend. On Friday, he cancelled a business dinner and went home early, just to stare out the window and think. When the following Sunday arrived, Nathan didn't hesitate. He was at the park before 9 in the morning, pretending to read a newspaper on a bench near the donut cart. He felt like a teenager waiting to see the girl he liked walk down the school hallway. It was pathetic and wonderful at the same time. At 10:15 they appeared. Jenna walked slowly, wearing the same coat as the week before. Chloe skipped beside her, pointing at the birds in the trees and talking non-stop. Nathan folded his newspaper and stood up, his heart beating faster than it should. It was Chloe who saw him first. "Mommy! Mommy!" She tugged on her mother's sleeve with enthusiasm. "It's the donut man?" Nathan saw Jenna follow her daughter's gaze to him. For a moment, their eyes met. There was something different in her expression today. Less suspicion, more curiosity, as if she had also thought about him during the week. "Hi," Nathan waved, approaching slowly. "It's good to see you again." "Hi, donut man." Chloe ran up to him, stopping just a few feet away. "Do you come here every week?" "Sometimes," Nathan replied, smiling. "And you?" "We like to come here on Sundays," Chloe said, looking at her mother. "Mommy says it's good to get out of the house, and there are ducks in the pond." Jenna approached, more relaxed than the week before. "She loves the ducks," she explained, her voice softer. "She spends hours throwing breadcrumbs to them." "Really?" Nathan crouched down to Chloe's level. "I like the ducks too. Which one is your favorite?" "The big one that's always alone," Chloe answered immediately. "Mommy said he must be waiting for a girlfriend." Nathan laughed, a genuine sound that surprised him. It had been weeks since he had laughed like that. Could be. Ducks are romantic. They walked together towards the pond, Chloe skipping ahead. Nathan noticed that Jenna no longer seemed in a hurry to leave. Her steps were slower, her shoulders less tense. "Thank you," she said suddenly, as Chloe got distracted watching a squirrel. "For the donut last week, Chloe hasn't stopped talking about it." "It was my pleasure," Nathan replied. "She's a special girl." "She is." Jenna's smile was small but genuine. "Sometimes I think she's more mature than I am." They spent the next 20 minutes at the pond. Chloe threw pieces of bread that Jenna had brought for the ducks, narrating each of the animals' movements as if it were a revolutionary scientific discovery. Nathan sat on the grass next to Jenna watching. "She has a lot of energy," Nathan commented. "For when she's feeling well, yes." Jenna hesitated, then continued. "She got sick a few weeks ago, nothing serious, just a bad cold, but it was hard to see her so quiet." Nathan noticed the change in her tone of voice, but he didn't ask any more questions. There would be time to better understand that story. After the pond, they walked to an area with some benches and large trees. Chloe found a butterfly and started following it, laughing every time it flew away. "Does she like stories?" Nathan asked suddenly. "Loves them. I have a few books at home, but we've already read them all about 1,000 times. Nathan smiled. "I have an idea." On Monday, Nathan spent his lunch hour at a children's bookstore in downtown Manhattan. The saleswoman, a lady with gray hair and colorful glasses, helped him choose a book suitable for a 5-year-old girl. "For your daughter?" she asked, wrapping the book in colorful paper. "No," Nathan replied, and for the first time, the answer didn't bother him. "For a special friend." On Tuesday he went back, and on Wednesday too. By the end of the week, he had 3 wrapped books in the drawer of his office desk. The following Sunday, Nathan arrived at the park carrying a small bag. He found Jenna and Chloe in the same spot as the week before, feeding the ducks. "Donut man," Chloe shouted, running to him. "How you came back?" "I always come back," Nathan said, laughing, "and I brought something for you." Chloe's eyes widened when Nathan took the first book out of the bag. It was a colorful volume about a girl who befriends forest animals. "For me," Chloe whispered, holding the book as if it were made of gold. "That's for you." Jenna approached, and Nathan saw the gratitude in her green eyes, mixed with something that might have been concern. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," Nathan said simply. Chloe had already opened the book and was flipping through the pages with reverent care. "Mommy, look at the pictures, and there's a girl who looks like me." It was true. The main character had blonde hair and light blue eyes, just like Chloe. They sat on a nearby bench, and Nathan began to read the story aloud. Chloe snuggled between him and her mother, interrupting from time to time to ask questions or comment on the illustrations. "The rabbit is very clever," she said when Nathan finished the first chapter. "Just like someone I know," Nathan replied, winking at her. Chloe laughed, a sound that warmed Nathan's chest in a way he couldn't explain. They spent 2 more hours together. Nathan brought the other books out of the bag, one about adventures in the ocean and another about a family of bears. Chloe was ecstatic, hugging each book as if it were a treasure. "As my name is Nathan," he said when they finally got up to leave. "I'm Chloe," the girl replied solemnly, holding out her little hand for him to shake. "And this is my mommy, Jenna." "It's a pleasure to officially meet you both." Jenna smiled, and Nathan noticed it was easier now, more natural. "Thank you for the books. She's going to love reading them before bed." "Can I read a little bit every night?" Chloe asked, looking hopefully at her mother. "Yes, you can, sweetheart." They said their goodbyes, and Nathan started to walk away when he heard the small voice behind him. "Bye, Nathan." He turned around. Chloe waved enthusiastically, the books clutched against her chest. He was no longer Donut Man. He was Nathan. His name said with all the naturalness in the world, by a little girl who had decided he deserved to be called by his real name. Something changed in that moment. Nathan felt as if a door had opened, not just to Chloe, but to a part of himself that had been locked away for a long time. "Bye, Chloe," he replied, waving back. As he walked home, Nathan heard Jenna talking to her daughter. "Did you like the books, Anne, sweetheart?" "I loved them. Nathan is nice, isn't he, Mommy?" "Yes, he is." And then, with a naturalness that surprised Nathan, Jenna added, "I used to work at a diner. When Chloe got sick, I had to miss work. They fired me." Nathan slowed his pace, pretending to tie his sneaker so he could hear better. "But it's okay," Jenna continued. "We always manage. Right, sweetie?" "Always," Chloe agreed, with the absolute confidence of someone who believes her mother can solve any problem in the world. Nathan continued walking, but now with information that changed everything. Jenna wasn't just being cautious. She was unemployed, taking care of a young daughter alone, trying to maintain her dignity while facing hardships Nathan could only imagine. When he got home, Nathan sat in his silent penthouse and thought. For the first time in years, the silence didn't bother him. Because now he had something to think about besides the emptiness. He had a little girl who called him by his name, and a woman who had trusted him enough to share a piece of her story. And for the first time, Nathan wondered if maybe he could be part of the solution, instead of just a spectator in other people's lives. Nathan spent all of Monday thinking about what Jenna had said in the park. The words echoed in his mind. "I used to work at a diner. When Chloe got sick, I had to miss work. They fired me." He tried to focus on the meetings, the reports, the decisions that moved millions of dollars. But he always went back to the image of Jenna trying to maintain her dignity while explaining why she couldn't buy a donut for her daughter. On Tuesday, Nathan made a decision. He went to the supermarket nearest his company during his lunch hour. He pushed the cart through the aisles with the same determination he used to close important deals. Cereal, milk, fruit, bread, butter. Basic, essential things. Nothing too obvious, nothing that seemed like an exaggeration. Then he went to the bookstore. 3 more children's books, carefully chosen. One about a brave princess, another about farm animals, and a third full of short bedtime stories. On Wednesday, Nathan did something he had never done before. He left the office in the middle of the afternoon and went to find where Jenna and Chloe lived. It wasn't hard to find them. Chloe had mentioned in the park that they lived near the bakery with the cat in the window. Nathan knew the neighborhood, a simple area, with old buildings and narrow streets, but clean and safe. He found the bakery and the orange cat sleeping in the display window. 2 blocks down, he saw Jenna leaving a red brick building holding Chloe's hand. They were walking slowly, talking quietly. Nathan waited until they were out of sight, then approached the building. It was modest but well kept, with a small entrance and organized mailboxes. Apartment 3B, he discovered from the doorman, who recognized him when Nathan said he was a family friend. On Thursday, Nathan gathered his courage. He knocked on the door of apartment 3B at 4 in the afternoon, carrying 2 paper bags. He heard footsteps on the other side, then Chloe's voice. "Mommy, someone's at the door." The door opened, and Jenna appeared, wearing an apron over a simple t-shirt. Her blonde hair was in a messy bun, and there was a small smudge of flour on her face. When she saw Nathan, her green eyes widened in surprise. "Nathan," she looked at the bags, then at him, confused. "What are you doing here?" "Mommy, it's Nathan." Chloe appeared behind her mother, jumping up to try to see over her shoulder. "Hi, Nathan, did you come to visit us?" "Hi, Chloe." Nathan smiled at the girl, then looked at Jenna. "Sorry to show up unannounced. I brought a few things and—" "How did you find out where we live?" Jenna asked, and Nathan noticed the tension in her voice. The suspicion was back, that maternal protection he had seen before. "Chloe mentioned the bakery with the cat," Nathan explained quickly. "I just wanted to... Look, I brought some things I thought you might like." Jenna looked at the bags, then at Nathan, then at Chloe, who was practically vibrating with curiosity behind her. What kind of things? Jenna asked, cautiously. A few books for Chloe, and... Nathan hesitated. Some things for the kitchen. Nothing major. Mommy, let him in, Chloe pleaded. Please. Jenna was silent for a long moment. Nathan could see the conflict in her eyes. Pride fighting against need. Suspicion fighting against the desire to give her daughter a little joy. Finally, she stepped aside. You can come in. The apartment was small but cozy. 2 worn armchairs surrounded a coffee table, and there were Chloe's drawings taped to the refrigerator. It smelled of homemade cake and cleanliness. It was simple, but it was a home. Nathan placed the bags on the kitchen table. Chloe immediately approached, trying to peek inside. Can I see? She asked, looking at her mother. Jenna nodded, still tense. Nathan started taking things out of the bags. First the books, which made Chloe let out a squeal of joy. Then the fruit, the milk, the bread, the cereal. Nathan, Jenna began, and he could hear the resistance in her voice. It's not charity, Nathan said quickly, before she could continue. I just want to help. But why? Jenna asked, crossing her arms. You don't even know us. Nathan stopped unpacking and looked at her. It was a fair question, and it deserved an honest answer. Because you two remind me of how good it feels to care about someone, he said simply. It's been a long time since I've felt that. Chloe was flipping through one of the new books, completely absorbed in the illustrations. Jenna looked at her daughter, then at Nathan. This isn't right, she said quietly. Twice accepting things from a stranger. Then don't let me be a stranger, Nathan replied. They were silent for a moment. Chloe broke the tension by running to Nathan with the book open. Look, Nathan, there's a princess who fights dragons, just like me. Just like you? Nathan asked, smiling. I'm very brave. Mommy always says so. Nathan looked at Jenna, who had relaxed her shoulders a little. Your mum is right. You are very brave. From that afternoon on, Nathan began to show up at apartment 3B regularly. Always with some excuse, a new book he had found, fruit that was on sale, a simple toy he thought Chloe would like. At first, Jenna still hesitated. She checked every gift, thanked him politely but kept her distance. Nathan respected that, didn't force conversation, didn't stay too long. But Chloe had no reservations. She welcomed him as if he were a family friend of many years, told him about her day, showed him her drawings, asked him to read stories. Are you coming back tomorrow? She would always ask when Nathan was getting ready to leave. If your mom lets me, Nathan would reply, looking at Jenna. And little by little, Jenna began to nod. First reluctantly, then with less resistance, finally with something that might have been expectation. In the 3rd week, Nathan arrived at the apartment and found Chloe with a cold, lying on the sofa with a blanket. She's better today, Jenna explained, stroking her daughter's hair. Yesterday, she had a fever. Nathan sat on the floor next to the sofa and began to read a story in a low voice. Chloe snuggled under the blanket, listening with her eyes half closed. When he finished, she was asleep. Nathan got up slowly, careful not to wake her. Thank you, Jenna whispered. For what? For being patient, for understanding that I needed time. Nathan smiled. You were protecting your daughter. It's natural. Sometimes it's hard to know who to trust, Jenna admitted. I understand. And Nathan really did understand. Because he had also spent his whole life not knowing who to trust, not knowing what a genuine connection was, until he met a little girl who called him by his name, and a mother who was slowly learning that maybe he deserved to be part of their lives. When Nathan left that night, Jenna didn't ask if he would be back. She knew he would. And for the first time, she really hoped he would. Nathan had never adjusted his schedule for anyone. In 15 years of building his business empire, meetings were sacred, commitments were non-negotiable, and time was money. But in the 4th week of visiting apartment 3B, he found himself rearranging video conferences, and pushing business dinners to later times. "I need to leave early today," he told his assistant on a Tuesday, putting papers in his briefcase. "Any emergency, sir?" Nathan hesitated. How could he explain that a 5-year-old girl was waiting for him to hear a new story? How could he say he had promised to help make a castle out of modeling clay? "Personal commitment," he replied simply. And it was true. It had become personal in a way Nathan couldn't even explain to himself. When he arrived at the apartment that afternoon, he found Chloe at the window, her small face pressed against the glass. "He's here!" she shouted into the apartment as soon as she saw Nathan climbing the stairs. "Mommy, Nathan's here." The door opened before Nathan even knocked. Chloe greeted him with a hug that nearly knocked him over, and Nathan felt something warm in his chest. When was the last time someone had been genuinely happy to see him arrive? "I brought paint today," Nathan announced, showing a small watercolor kit he had bought on the way. "Real paint?" Chloe asked, her blue eyes shining. "Just real paint." They settled at the kitchen table, which Jenna had covered with old newspapers. Nathan had zero experience with paint and children, but Chloe was a patient teacher. "You have to wet the brush first," she explained, as serious as an adult. "Like this, then you choose the color." "What color do you think I should use?" "Blue." "Like the sky." Nathan dipped the brush in the blue paint and made a crooked line on the paper. Chloe laughed. "Not like that. Let me teach you." She guided his hand, her small fingers over his large ones, showing him how to make smoother strokes. Nathan became completely absorbed, forgetting he had an empire to run, that there were emails waiting for a reply, that the world was still spinning outside. Jenna watched from the sink, where she was washing some dishes. Every so often she would look at them and smile, a different smile from the ones Nathan had seen before, more relaxed, more genuine. "What are you two painting?" she asked, approaching. "A castle," Chloe replied. "Nathan is making the towers, and I'm making the princess." "And where is this castle?" "In a magical place where everyone is happy," Chloe said, with the naturalness of someone who believes in magical worlds. Nathan looked at her, then at Jenna. "Sounds like a good place." "It's the best place," Chloe agreed. That night, when Nathan got up to leave, Chloe asked, "Can you come back tomorrow?" "If your mom lets me," Jenna didn't hesitate. "You can come back." And Nathan did, the next day, and the next, and the one after that. Slowly, without any of them fully realizing it, he began to become part of the routine of apartment 3B. On Tuesdays, they cooked together. Nathan discovered he didn't even know how to fry an egg properly, which amused Chloe immensely. "You're very bad at cooking," she would say, laughing as he broke the yolk for the third time. "I really am. I always eat at restaurants." Every day. Every day. Chloe would become thoughtful. It must be sad to eat alone every day. Nathan would stop what he was doing and look at her. The simplicity with which she saw the world sometimes left him speechless. It was, he would admit, but not anymore. On Wednesdays, they made pancakes. Chloe had convinced Nathan that pancakes were the best breakfast in the world, and he had offered to learn the recipe. The first result was disastrous. Pancakes burned on one side and raw on the other. "You need to flip it faster," Jenna explained, taking charge of the pan. "Look!" She stood next to Nathan, guiding his hand on the spatula. Nathan noticed the soft scent of her hair, the concentrated way she bit her lip when she was focused on something. "Like this," she said, helping him flip the perfectly golden pancake. "I did it." Nathan celebrated as if he had closed the deal of a lifetime. Chloe clapped her hands. "Now you know how to make real pancakes." On Thursdays, they drew. Nathan discovered he had zero artistic talent, but Chloe didn't care. She corrected his drawings with affection, patiently explaining why horses needed to have 4 legs and why flowers didn't grow in the sky. "You're getting better," she said one day, analyzing the crooked drawing of a house Nathan had made. "You think so?" "I'm sure. Last week your houses didn't even have doors." Nathan laughed. "That's true. How would people get in? Exactly. You always have to think about the people. On Fridays, they read, it was Nathan's favorite time. Chloe would snuggle between him and Jenna on the small sofa, and Nathan would read stories until she started to doze off. Sometimes he would invent different voices for the characters, which made Chloe laugh until she couldn't anymore. Do the dragon's voice again, she would ask. Nathan would make a deep, scary voice, and Chloe would pretend to be scared, hiding behind her mother's hand. Protect me, Mommy. Always, Jenna would reply, kissing the top of her daughter's head. Nathan watched these exchanges with something he was beginning to recognize as envy. Not a bad envy, but the deep desire to be part of that kind of unconditional love. And little by little, he began to realize that he already was. Jenna started to laugh more, not just polite smiles, but real laughs that lit up her whole face. Nathan discovered that he loved making her laugh. Sometimes he would tell stories from the office, edited versions that didn't mention the figures involved, just the absurd situations that happened in the corporate world. Once, he told them on a Thursday, while they were painting, a client spent 2 hours in a meeting discussing the exact color of a button. 2 hours for a button. Jenna laughed. Really? Really? And in the end, he decided he didn't want a button at all. That's silly, Chloe commented seriously. Buttons are important. How do you close your clothes without a button? Excellent question, Nathan agreed. You should have been in that meeting. Chloe sat up straight, proud. I would have solved it quickly. Blue button. Done. Why blue? Jenna asked. Because blue is the most beautiful color in the world. Nathan looked at Chloe's blue eyes, then at Jenna's green ones. I completely agree. The connection between them deepened so naturally that Nathan sometimes forgot that this wasn't his real life. In apartment 3B, he wasn't a billionaire businessman. He was just Nathan, the man who burned pancakes, who drew three-legged horses, who made funny voices at story time. And he liked this version of himself much better. On a Saturday morning, Nathan arrived earlier than usual. He found Jenna in the kitchen, still in her pajamas making coffee. Her blonde hair was messy from sleep, and she looked younger, more relaxed. Sorry, I got here too early, Nathan said. No, it's fine. Want some coffee? Always. They sat at the kitchen table, in the comfortable silence of people who no longer need to fill every space with words. Chloe was still asleep, and the house was quiet and cozy. Can I ask you something? Jenna said suddenly. Of course. What did you do before? Before you met us? Nathan thought about the answer. How could he explain a life that now seemed to belong to someone else? I worked a lot, he said finally. That's it. And were you happy? Nathan paused with the cup at his lips. I thought I was, but I don't think I knew what real happiness was. And now you know. Nathan looked around the small apartment, heard the soft sound of Chloe's breathing in the next room, felt the warmth of the coffee in his hands, and the quiet presence of Jenna beside him. I'm learning, he replied. Chloe appeared at the kitchen door at that moment, her hair standing on end and a teddy bear under her arm. Nathan, she said, still half asleep, did you come to make pancakes? If you want to. I always want to. And so another day began. Pancakes, only one burned this time. Drawings. Nathan managed to make a cat that actually looked like a cat, and stories at lunchtime. It was during the reading that Chloe grew quiet for a moment, looking out the window. I want to go back to school, she said suddenly. I miss my teacher. Nathan felt Jenna stiffen beside him. When he looked at her, he saw the sadness in her green eyes. It's expensive, Jenna said quietly, more to herself than to Chloe. Nathan closed the book slowly. He knew he needed to be careful, that Jenna was still sensitive about accepting help. Tomorrow I'll bring a real book, he said, looking at Chloe. A good one. What kind of book? Chloe asked, curious. The kind that teaches important things. What kind of thing do you want to learn? Everything, Chloe replied immediately. "I want to learn about animals, and about the planets, and about how to make cakes, and about how flowers grow." Nathan smiled. "Then I'll bring books about all of that." "Really? Really?" Jenna watched the conversation in silence. Nathan could see the conflict on her face, gratitude fighting with concern, relief fighting with pride. But there was something else there, something that made Nathan's heart race. There was affection, there was trust, there was, perhaps, the beginning of something deeper. When Nathan said goodbye that afternoon, Chloe hugged him tighter than usual. Thank you for the books you're going to bring," she said. "You're welcome, little one." "Nathan?" "Yes, you're my favorite friend." Nathan knelt down to her level. "You're my favorite friend too." "And Mommy?" Nathan looked at Jenna, who was watching the scene with shining eyes. "Your mommy is very special too," he said. When he left the apartment that night, Nathan had two certainties. He was going to get the best educational books that existed, and he was completely lost in these two blonde, light-eyed people who had changed his life without even realizing it. And for the first time, being lost felt like exactly the right place to be. Jenna was in line at the supermarket on a Thursday afternoon when her life changed completely. The supermarket was busier than usual, with long lines stretching down the aisles. Jenna held a basket with only the essentials: milk, bread, a few eggs. She had counted and recounted the coins in her wallet 3 times before leaving home, calculating exactly what she could buy with the last $15 she had. The line moved slowly, and Jenna distracted herself by watching the people around her. A mother was trying to calm a crying baby. An elderly man was flipping through discount coupons. Everything was normal, everyday, comforting in its simplicity. It was when her gaze passed over the magazine rack that her breath caught. There, on the cover of Forbes, was the face she had come to know over the past few weeks. The same gentle smile, the same eyes that made Chloe laugh, the same man who had burned pancakes in her kitchen just 2 days before. But the headline of the article made Jenna's world collapse. Nathan Pierce, the discreet billionaire behind an empire. For a moment, Jenna thought she was seeing things. She blinked several times, thinking it was some kind of illusion, that fatigue was playing tricks on her mind, but no, it was him. It was definitely Nathan. With trembling hands, she picked up the magazine. The lady behind her in line grumbled something about the delay, but Jenna didn't even hear her. She was completely absorbed in the words that danced on the page. "The most influential businessman of the decade," the first line read. "Estimated fortune of $2.3 billion. Pierce built his empire from a small technology company inherited from his father, transforming it into one of the most powerful corporations in the world." Jenna felt nauseous. 2.3 billion. The number was so absurd she couldn't even process it. It was more money than she could imagine in 1,000 lifetimes. Known for his extreme discretion, the article continued, Pierce rarely grants interviews and avoids public exposure. Those who work with him describe him as a business genius. There were photos of him in luxurious offices, in meetings with other famous businessmen, at a charity gala where he wore a tuxedo that probably cost more than Jenna's rent for a year. "Ma'am, the line has moved." The cashier called to her, and Jenna realized there were at least 5 people waiting behind her. She moved like a robot, placing her humble groceries on the conveyor belt, trying to process what she had just discovered. The cashier scanned the items, announcing prices that suddenly seemed ridiculously small. $3 for the milk, $2.50 for the bread, amounts that Nathan probably earned in the seconds it took to blink. "That's $11.47, the cashier said. Jenna paid on autopilot, still holding the magazine. She only realized she had taken it when she was already on the street, walking mechanically towards home. When she arrived at the apartment, Jenna sat on the sofa and read the entire article. Each paragraph felt like a punch to the gut. Nathan Pierce, the king of strategic acquisitions. Nathan Pierce, who had bought 3 companies in the last year alone. Nathan Pierce, who owned homes in 5 countries. The memories started to come back then, an avalanche of recollections Jenna had spent years trying to bury. Marcus. Jenna closed her eyes and saw herself again at 22, working as a receptionist at a marketing firm. Marcus was one of the executives, handsome, charming, always impeccably dressed. He had started showing up at the reception desk more often, always with some excuse, always with that smile that made her heart race. Marcus was different from any man she had ever known. He took her to expensive restaurants, bought her gifts, talked about trips to places she only knew from movies, and most importantly, he seemed genuinely interested in her. "You're so different from the others," he would say. "So real, so authentic." Jenna fell completely in love. For the first time in her life, she felt special, chosen, loved by someone who could have anyone. It took her 3 months to find out who Marcus really was. It wasn't a dramatic discovery like today's. It was gradual, through casual comments from colleagues, photos in the company magazine, conversations she overheard. Marcus Thompson, son of the company's owner. Marcus Thompson, heir to a family fortune. Marcus Thompson, who dated secretaries and receptionists as a hobby. When Jenna confronted him, Marcus didn't even deny it. "So what?" he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Does that change anything between us?" "It changes everything," Jenna had replied. "You lied to me." "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. Would you have given me a chance if you knew who I was?" "I don't know, but I should have had the choice," Marcus had laughed. "See, that's why I didn't tell you. You people make such a drama out of these things." But the worst was yet to come. 2 weeks later, Jenna discovered she was pregnant. When she told Marcus, he was silent for a long time. Then he said he would take care of everything. "Take care of it how?" "I know a doctor. Discreet. You don't have to worry about a thing." Jenna stared at him, incredulous. "Are you talking about an abortion?" "I'm talking about a practical solution to a problem." "It's not a problem." "It's a baby." "It's a mistake," Marcus corrected, "and mistakes should be corrected." Jenna broke up with him that same day. Marcus tried to argue, offered money, promised to take care of everything if she would be reasonable. When he realized she wouldn't change her mind, he disappeared. A month later, Marcus reappeared. He left an envelope at her apartment door, a check for an absurd amount and a note. "For you and the baby, so you can have a good life." Jenna tore up the check. She would rather work 2 jobs, rather struggle, rather do anything than accept money from someone who saw her as a problem to be solved. And now it was happening again. Jenna opened her eyes and looked around the small apartment. Nathan's books were scattered on the coffee table. The teddy bear he had given Chloe was on the sofa. On the refrigerator, there were still the fruit-shaped magnets he had brought last week. Evidence of a lie. Crumbs of charity disguised as friendship. "Mommy!" Chloe appeared at the bedroom door, holding one of the books Nathan had brought. "Are you okay? Are you crying?" Jenna touched her own face and realized she was indeed crying. She quickly hid the magazine under a cushion. "I'm fine, sweetie. Just a little tired." "Is Nathan coming today?" "I want to show him the drawing I made for him." The question was like a stab wound. Jenna looked at her daughter, her blue eyes shining with expectation, her sweet smile, the total innocence of someone who had no idea the world was falling apart. "I don't know, honey. I hope so." "He said he was going to bring more books today." Chloe went back to her room, and Jenna sank deeper into the sofa. How could she explain to a 5-year-old that the friend she adored wasn't who she thought he was? 5 o'clock arrived as always. Jenna heard the familiar footsteps on the stairs, the familiar knock on the door. For a moment, she considered not opening it. Pretending she wasn't home, postponing this inevitable conversation. But no, if there was one thing Marcus had taught her, it was that lies only grow when you ignore them. "Mommy, it's Nathan!" Chloe shouted, running to the door as she always did. Jenna took a deep breath and opened the door. Nathan was there with his usual smile, carrying a bag that probably contained more expensive gifts disguised as simple gestures. When he saw Jenna's face, his smile faltered. "Hi," he said. And there was something in his voice that suggested he knew something was wrong. "Hi, Nathan!" Chloe threw herself into his arms, as she always did. Jenna watched the scene that had been repeated so many times in recent weeks. Chloe smiling, Nathan laughing, the two of them hugging as if they were a real family. But now she saw everything differently. "Chloe, go play in your room for a little bit," Jenna said, her voice firmer than she intended. But I want to play with Nathan," Chloe protested, still clinging to him. "Go on, sweetie, just for a few minutes." Chloe looked confusedly between her mother and Nathan. She was only 5, but she was smart enough to feel the tension in the air. "Is everything okay?" she asked, worried. "Everything's fine," Jenna lied. Go on, honey." Chloe obeyed reluctantly, but kept looking over her shoulder as she walked away. When they were finally alone, Jenna turned to Nathan. He had entered the apartment but remained standing near the door, as if he knew he wouldn't be welcome. Jenna went to the sofa and picked up the magazine. When Nathan saw the cover, his face turned pale. "Jenna?" "Nathan Pierce," she said, reading the headline aloud. "The discreet billionaire behind an empire." Nathan closed his eyes and sighed deeply. "I can explain." "Can you?" Jenna laughed, but there was no humor in her laughter. "Can you explain how a billionaire decides to have fun pretending to be a normal person? It's not like that." "Then what is it?" Jenna interrupted, her voice rising. "What are we to you, Nathan? A hobby? A social experiment?" Nathan took a step towards her, but Jenna instinctively backed away. "You two are the best thing that's ever happened to me," he said, and there was a raw sincerity in his voice that Jenna didn't expect. "A lie," she replied. "A lie like everything else you've said and done here." "I never lied to you." "You hid who you were," Jenna said, her voice trembling with restrained anger. "Why?" Nathan was silent for a moment, visibly struggling with the words. "I'm tired of being seen only as a businessman," he said finally. "Most people only get close for their own interests. With you, I could just be Nathan." "Just Nathan," Jenna repeated, incredulous. "You think that justifies the lie?" "I didn't lie." "You didn't tell the truth," Jenna exploded, all the weeks of accumulated anger finally finding an outlet. "You let us accept your things. You let Chloe get attached, knowing that I never would have allowed it if I knew who you really are." "And why wouldn't you have allowed it?" Nathan asked. "Why does it matter how much money I have?" "Because it does," Jenna shouted, the tears finally starting to fall. "Because people like you don't mix with people like me by chance, because there's always a reason." "You think that's what you are to me?" Nathan asked, and there was genuine pain in his voice. "The project, I don't know what I am to you," Jenna said, wiping her tears angrily, "but I know what you are to me. A lie." Nathan stopped approaching. Jenna could see him struggling with his words, trying to find something that could fix this situation. "I have everything," he said finally, his voice low and tired. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I have houses, cars, companies. I have everything, except someone who sees me." "Sees you how?" "As a person. As Nathan. Not as a bank account or a business opportunity." Jenna shook her head. "But that doesn't give you the right to lie to us." "I didn't lie," Nathan repeated, more firmly now. "I just didn't tell you everything, because I knew that if I did, you would look at me differently." "You don't get to decide that for me," Jenna said. "You don't get to decide what I need to know." "You're right," Nathan admitted. "I should have told you from the beginning." "Yes, you should have. But everything that happened between us was real," Nathan insisted. Every conversation, every laugh, every moment with Chloe, that was real." Jenna wiped away more tears. "How can I know what's real when you hid who you really are?" Nathan took another step towards her. "Because you know me," he said. "You know the man who burns pancakes and draws crooked horses. You know the man who gets nervous when Chloe is sick. That's me." "The money doesn't change that." "It changes everything," Jenna whispered, "because it means you were playing with us." "It's not a game," Nathan said, and there was urgency in his voice now. "It's the first time in years that I've felt like a real person." They stared at each other in silence for a long moment. Jenna could see that Nathan was struggling, trying to find words that could fix what was broken. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally. Jenna took a deep breath, gathering all the courage she had. "I want you to leave," she said, "and not come back." "Jenna, please," she interrupted, her voice broken now. "I need space. I need to think." Nathan nodded slowly. He understood. He didn't like it, but he understood. "And Chloe?" he asked, and there was a deep pain in the question. "I'll explain it to her. She'll be hurt. She doesn't deserve this." "No," Jenna agreed, more tears falling. "She doesn't, but you're the one who created this situation." Nathan lowered his head. "I know." He headed for the door but stopped before leaving. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said without turning around. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me." "Then you should have been honest with us from the beginning," Jenna replied. Nathan left and Jenna closed the door behind him. She leaned against the wood and let the tears fall freely for the first time. In the days that followed, Nathan tried to make contact. He called twice. Jenna didn't answer. He sent a letter, which she threw away without opening. "Mommy!" Chloe appeared at the bedroom door, her eyes wide with worry. "Where's Nathan?" "Why doesn't he come anymore?" Jenna knelt and hugged her daughter, trying to find the strength to explain the unexplainable. "Nathan had to go away, sweetie." "But is he coming back?" Jenna held Chloe tighter. "I don't know, honey." Chloe asked about Nathan every day. Where was he? Why didn't he come anymore? Had she done something wrong? At the end of the second week, Nathan showed up at the door again. Jenna opened it but didn't invite him in. "5 minutes," she said. "I just want you to know that I respect your decision," Nathan said. "But I also want you to know that I don't regret meeting you." "You should," Jenna replied. Nathan nodded. "If you ever want to talk, you know where to find me." Jenna closed the door without answering. That night, Chloe asked once more, "Is Nathan coming back?" And for the first time, Jenna answered honestly, "I don't know, sweetie." Because despite all the anger, despite all the disappointment, a small part of her missed that man who drew crooked horses and made funny voices at story time. A small part of her missed Nathan, just Nathan. 3 weeks passed in silence. Nathan didn't appear at the door of apartment 3B. He didn't call. He didn't send messages. He didn't try to force a conversation that Jenna had made clear she didn't want to have. For the first time since they met, he completely respected the boundaries she had set. And that should have relieved Jenna. It should have confirmed that she had made the right decision. But strangely, Nathan's total absence bothered her more than his previous attempts at contact, because it meant he had really given up. Jenna woke up every morning hoping to find some sign of him. A letter under the door, a phone call, flowers left discreetly on the stairs. Anything to prove that she still mattered to him. But there was nothing, just the silence she had asked for, and that silence was becoming deafening. "Mommy, why are you sad?" Chloe asked on a Tuesday morning as they were having breakfast. She stirred her cereal in the bowl without much interest. Her blue eyes focused on her mother's face. "I'm not sad, sweetie," Jenna lied, forcing a smile. "Just thoughtful." "Are you thinking about Nathan?" The question hit Jenna as it always did. Direct, innocent, impossible to avoid. Chloe asked this question every day, sometimes several times a day, as if repeating it could bring Nathan back. Sometimes, Jenna admitted. It was useless to lie to a 5-year-old who read her expressions better than any adult. "I think about him too," Chloe said, stirring her cereal with her spoon, "all the time." Jenna felt her heart ache. This was the hardest part of it all, seeing Chloe suffer over a situation she couldn't understand. How do you explain to a child that the friend she adored had lied about who he was? How do you explain concepts like betrayal and disappointment to someone who still believed in happy endings? "Is he coming back?" Chloe asked for the 1,000th time. "I don't know, honey." "But do you want him to come back?" Jenna paused with the coffee cup at her lips. It was a question she had been avoiding answering, even to herself. "It's complicated," she said finally. "Why is it complicated? Either you want him to, or you don't." The simple logic of a child. To Chloe, the world was divided into clear categories: good things and bad things, people you like and people you don't. There was no room for conflicting feelings or ambiguous situations. "Sometimes grown-ups feel several things at the same time," Jenna explained. "I can miss someone and be upset with that person too." Chloe considered this for a moment. "Like when I get mad at you, but I still love you." "Exactly like that." "So you love Nathan?" Jenna almost choked on her coffee. It's different, Chloe." "But you miss him?" "I do." It was the first time Jenna had admitted it out loud, and the truth sounded strange in her own ears. Yes, she missed Nathan. She missed the conversations, the laughter, the way he looked at Chloe with genuine affection. She missed the company, the feeling that she wasn't alone in the world. But missing him didn't erase the pain of betrayal. The days continued to pass in a strange routine. Jenna looked for a job, took care of Chloe, organized the house, did all the normal things she had done before Nathan appeared in their lives. But everything seemed harder now, heavier. It wasn't just his absence, and it was the absence of the hope he had brought. During those weeks he was present, Jenna had allowed herself to imagine a different future. A future where she wasn't alone, where Chloe had a father figure, where there was laughter and conversation, and someone to share the weight of responsibilities. Now she was back to reality. Alone again, trying to be everything for Chloe, trying to be strong when all she wanted to do was cry. Chloe was different too, quieter, less energetic. She still played, still laughed, was still a normal 5-year-old. But there was a melancholy about her that didn't exist before. She waited by the window every afternoon, looking out at the street as if Nathan might appear at any moment. "Maybe he's traveling," she would say sometimes. "Maybe he'll come back when his trip is over." Jenna didn't have the heart to destroy that hope, so she would just nod and change the subject. It was on a Thursday, 3 weeks and 2 days after her last conversation with Nathan, that Jenna found the letter. She was coming back from the supermarket when she saw the white envelope on the floor near her apartment door. There was no name, no address, just a simple envelope, apparently left there on purpose. Jenna looked around. The hallway was empty. No sign of who had left the letter there. With her heart beating faster, she picked up the envelope and went up to the apartment. Chloe was watching cartoons on television, completely absorbed in a story about brave princesses. Jenna sat in the kitchen and opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was just a piece of paper, folded once. The handwriting was clear, familiar. "If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. Nathan." Nothing more. No explanations, no apologies, no attempts to justify what had happened. Just an open door, in case she wanted to walk through it. Jenna read the note 3 times, then folded it carefully. For a long moment, she sat in the kitchen holding the paper between her fingers. Part of her wanted to tear up the letter, throw it away, as she had done with the previous one. Not even give Nathan the satisfaction of knowing she had read it. But a bigger part of her wanted to keep those words. She got up and went to her room. She opened the dresser drawer, the one where she kept important documents and a few keepsakes. She placed the letter there, under some old photos of Chloe as a baby. "Mommy!" Chloe appeared at the door. "Who were you talking to?" "I wasn't talking to anyone, sweetie, but I heard you talking." Jenna realized she must have sighed or muttered something without noticing. "I was just thinking out loud. Thinking about Nathan? Maybe. Chloe came closer and hugged her mother's legs. I think about him when I'm alone too. Do you think he thinks about us? Jenna looked at the closed drawer where the letter was kept. I think so, honey. How do you know? I just know. That night, after putting Chloe to bed, Jenna sat on the sofa and stared at the television without really watching. Her mind was on the letter, on the simple words that meant so much. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. It wasn't a demand, it wasn't pressure. It was just a silent promise that the door was open in case she decided to knock. And for the first time in weeks, Jenna didn't feel completely alone. The silence was still there. Nathan was still not part of their routine. Chloe still asked about him every day. Jenna still woke up expecting signs from him that didn't come. But there was something different about the silence now. Before, it was heavy, oppressive, final. Now it was expectant, as if it were a pause, not an end. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. Jenna kept those words in her heart, along with the letter in the drawer. She didn't know if she would ever have the courage to talk to Nathan again. She didn't know if she could forgive the lie, if she could trust him again. But knowing the option existed changed everything. 2 weeks later, Chloe stopped asking when Nathan would be back. Instead, she started saying, if Nathan comes back. A small change of words that showed she was beginning to accept that maybe he wouldn't return. But Jenna noticed that she still waited by the window in the afternoons, still kept the books Nathan had given her in a special place, still talked about him as if he were a friend who had moved far away, not someone who had disappeared forever. And Jenna also still kept the letter. Sometimes, and when she missed him too much, she would open the drawer and read the words again. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. But now it had a different quality. It was no longer the silence of an end. And waiting, Jenna was very different. Jenna finally gave in to Chloe's insistent request to go back to the pub. Please, Mommy, Chloe had pleaded for the 5th time that Sunday morning. It's been so long since we went to see the ducks. Jenna knew it wasn't the ducks Chloe wanted to see. It was the place where it had all begun, where she had first met Nathan. But Chloe didn't say it openly, and Jenna pretended not to know. All right, she finally agreed. But only for an hour. Chloe jumped for joy and ran to her room to get her little jacket. Jenna followed her more slowly, her heart beating faster than it should. She was being ridiculous, she knew. The chances of running into Nathan at the park were slim. He probably didn't even go there anymore. But as she got ready, Jenna chose a blouse she knew looked good on her. And she put on a little lip gloss, and she combed her hair more carefully than usual. Just in case, she told herself. The park was crowded, as it always was on Sundays. Families were spread out on the lawns. Children ran among the trees. Couples walked hand in hand. The world kept spinning as it always had. Chloe ran ahead, towards the pond where the ducks were. Jenna followed more slowly, her eyes automatically searching for a familiar face among the people. Mommy, look, Chloe shouted, pointing to the water. There are baby ducklings. Jenna approached the pond and saw a family of ducks swimming near the edge. The mother duck led the way, followed by 4 small ducklings trying to imitate her every move. Wait, they're beautiful, Jenna agreed, sitting on a nearby bench. It was good to be here, she realized. The park had always been a refuge for them, a place where they could forget their worries and just exist. Chloe threw breadcrumbs she had brought, chatting excitedly with the ducks as if they could understand her. Jenna watched, a small smile on her face. Maybe coming to the park had been a good idea after all. It was then that she heard the voice. Look, the donut man! Jenna turned so quickly she almost lost her balance. Chloe was standing at the edge of the pond, pointing to a figure walking towards them. Nathan, he looked different, thinner maybe, his hair a little longer. He was wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, clothes Jenna had never seen on him. He looked younger like this, more like the Nathan she had known before she found out who he really was. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Nathan stopped where he was, clearly unsure if he should approach. Jenna was frozen on the bench, her heart beating so loud she was sure he could hear it. It was Chloe who broke the stalemate. "Nathan!" she shouted, dropping the bag of crumbs and running towards him. Nathan knelt and opened his arms, receiving Chloe in a hug that lasted longer than usual. Jenna could tell by the way he held the girl that he had missed her as much as she had missed him. "Hi, little one," Nathan said, his voice a bit choked up. "How are you?" "Good, but I missed you," Chloe replied with the brutal honesty of children. "Why did you disappear?" Nathan looked over Chloe's head at Jenna, who was still sitting on the bench. "I had to take care of some things," he said, "but I always thought of you. Always and always. Always and always." Chloe smiled, satisfied with the answer. Then she took Nathan's hand and started pulling him towards the bench where Jenna was sitting. "Come see the baby ducklings. There are 4 of them, and one is really tiny." Nathan let himself be dragged, but his eyes remained on Jenna. She could see the hesitation in them, the silent question of whether he was welcome. Jenna said nothing, but she also didn't get up to leave. "Look, Mommy," Chloe said when they reached the bench. "Nathan's back." "I see that," Jenna replied quietly. Nathan stood for a moment, clearly unsure if he should sit down. Jenna gave a small nod towards the bench, a silent invitation. He sat down, leaving a space between them. Chloe immediately squeezed in the middle, starting to chatter excitedly about the ducks, the drawings she had made, about everything that had happened in the weeks he had been away. Nathan listened with full attention, asking questions, laughing at the right moments, as if there was nowhere else in the world he would rather be. Jenna watched the interaction, feeling her heart warm and ache at the same time. It was impossible to deny that Chloe was happier in Nathan's presence. It was impossible to deny that she also felt more complete when he was there. But it was also impossible to forget the pain of the last few weeks. After a few minutes, Chloe got distracted by a butterfly that landed near the pond and ran after it, leaving Jenna and Nathan alone on the bench. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unsaid things. "I got your letter," Jenna said finally. "So I was hoping you had. Was it the only one you sent?" "Yes, I thought if you wanted to talk, you would find me." Jenna nodded. It was typical of him, she realized, to give space, to respect boundaries, not to press. Maybe that's why it hurt so much, because deep down he was a good person, which made the lie even harder to process. "I missed you both so much," Nathan said suddenly, his voice thick with emotion. "More than I ever thought I could miss anyone." Jenna looked at him. There was a vulnerability in his eyes she had never seen before, a raw honesty that made her heart race. "Me too," she admitted, restrained but sincere. "But I'm afraid to trust. Afraid you'll lie." So afraid of getting hurt again. Nathan turned completely towards her on the bench. "Jenna, I can't go through this again," she continued, the words coming out in a rush. "I can't let Chloe go through this again. She was devastated when you disappeared. I know, and I hate myself for causing that." "Then why did you do it?" Nathan took a deep breath. "Die because I'm a coward, because I was afraid that if you knew who I really was, you would reject me before you even got to know me. And now I know that hiding the truth is worse than being rejected for it." Jenna studied his face, searching for signs of falsehood, for empty words. But all she saw was sincerity. Slowly, Nathan reached out and touched her hand. "So I will never hide anything from you again," he said, holding her fingers gently. "With you, I want to be whole and true." Jenna looked at their hands, intertwined on the bench. She should pull her hand away. She should get up and leave. She should protect herself and Chloe from more disappointment. But she did none of that. Instead, she stayed there, feeling the warmth of Nathan's hand on hers, feeling something inside her begin to heal. She didn't answer his words. She didn't say she forgave him. She didn't say she wanted to try again. But she also didn't let go of his hand. She didn't move away. She didn't back down. "Mommy, Nathan!" Chloe ran back to them, her cheeks flushed from the run. Thus the butterfly landed on my finger. It was magical. She threw herself into Nathan's lap, who hugged her with his free arm, still holding Jenna's hand with the other. For a moment, they stayed like that, the three of them on the bench, Chloe talking excitedly about magical butterflies, Nathan listening with a smile on his face, Jenna watching the scene with her heart torn between hope and fear. She still didn't know if she could trust him again, still didn't know if she could open her heart to someone who had lied to her before. But for the first time in weeks, she wanted to find out. And that, Jenna thought, looking at their intertwined hands, might be the beginning of something. Not necessarily a happy ending, but at least a new chance. A new beginning. After the meeting in the park, Nathan returned to their lives slowly, like someone testing the water temperature before diving in. On the first day, he showed up at the apartment with just one book for Chloe, a story about a brave girl who saved dragons instead of running from them. He stayed for only an hour, read the story, talked briefly with Jenna about simple things like the weather and the ducks at the park, and then left. On the second day, he brought ingredients to make pancakes. I thought maybe we could try again, he said, smiling shyly. I promise not to burn any this time. He lied. He burned 2. But Chloe laughed so hard that Jenna couldn't stay serious. On the third day, he simply asked if he could come over to talk. No gifts, no excuses, just wanting to be there. It was different now. Nathan seemed more careful, more attentive to Jenna's signals. When she got too quiet, he would ask if everything was okay. When Chloe talked about school, he would look at Jenna before answering, checking if it was a sensitive topic. Jenna appreciated this new version of him. Less confident, perhaps, but more genuine. As if he had finally understood that trust wasn't something to be assumed, but something to be earned. Chloe, on the other hand, went back to being her old self almost immediately. To her, Nathan had never really left. He had just taken longer than usual to come back. She greeted him with the same joy, told the same kinds of stories, asked him to read the same books. Why was Nathan sad? She asked Jenna one evening after he had left. How do you know he was sad? He smiles differently now, like when I'm sad, but I pretend I'm not. Jenna was impressed by her daughter's perception. Nathan really did smile differently, more cautious, less natural, as if he were always policing himself. So sometimes grown-ups get sad when they do things that hurt people they love, Jenna explained. Did he hurt you? A little. But did you forgive him? Jenna thought about the question. Had she forgiven Nathan? Or was she just trying to forgive? I'm learning to forgive, she said finally. That's good, Chloe declared with the simple wisdom of children. Forgiving makes you feel better. 2 weeks after their reunion, Nathan arrived later than usual. Chloe was already in her pajamas, brushing her teeth in the bathroom. Sorry I'm late, he said. The meeting ran long. It was the first time he had mentioned work since they had reconnected. Jenna realized he was still learning to balance honesty with naturalness. No problem, she replied. Want some dinner? There's leftover lasagna. I'd love some. The three of them had dinner together, Chloe talking about her day at the art school she had started attending. Nathan listened attentively, asking questions about her drawings, about the other students, about the teacher. And what did you draw today? He asked. A family of bears, Chloe replied, her mouth full of lasagna. The mommy bear, the daddy bear, and the baby bear. Like in the books we read. No, like a real family. The daddy bear teaches the baby bear how to fish, and the mommy bear makes honey for them. Nathan smiled. Sounds like a happy family. It is. All families should be happy. Jenna felt something stir in her chest at the comment. Chloe spoke about families with the nostalgia of someone who wished for a complete one. After dinner, Nathan helped put Chloe to bed. They took turns reading the bedtime story, each making different voices for the characters. Chloe laughed until she started yawning, then snuggled between them on the small sofa. Tell the part about the dragon who became friends with the princess again, she murmured, already half asleep. Nathan looked at Jenna, who nodded. He began to retell her favorite part of the story, his voice low and soft. Chloe fell asleep before he finished. Together, they carried her to her room and put her in bed. Nathan stood for a moment looking at her sleep, a tender expression on his face. "She's grown," he said quietly. "Kids grow up fast." I missed everything, her smiles, her questions, even the stories she makes up. They went back to the living room, where Jenna made tea for both of them. It was the first time in weeks they had been completely alone, without Chloe's lively presence to fill the silences. "Jenna," Nathan said after a few minutes of comfortable silence, "can I say something?" "Of course." Nathan put his cup on the table and turned to her on the sofa. "I've always wanted a family," he began, his voice low and honest. "Since I was a kid, I dreamed of having a house full of laughter, conversations at the dinner table, someone to take care of and who would take care of me." Jenna listened in silence, feeling the weight of his words. "I never had that," Nathan continued. "My parents died when I was young. I never married, never had children. I always thought it was too late, that I had missed my chance." He paused, taking a deep breath. "With you two, I already feel like part of a family. With you two, I feel like I've finally found where I belong." Jenna felt her eyes start to burn. There was so much sincerity in his voice and so much vulnerability. "If you'll let me," Nathan said, taking her hand gently, "I want to be more than a friend to both of you." Jenna looked at him, really looked. She saw the hope in his eyes, saw the fear too. She saw a man who had made a mistake, who had learned from it, and who was asking for a second chance. "Nathan, you don't have to answer now," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know how I feel." Jenna smiled, feeling tears start to stream down her face. They weren't tears of sadness, but of something she couldn't quite name. Relief, maybe hope. "We can try," she said softly. Slowly. The smile that spread across Nathan's face was unlike any she had seen before. It was pure, unreserved, full of a joy he didn't try to hide. "Slowly," he repeated, gently kissing the back of her hand. The following Saturday, Nathan showed up with something different. Instead of the usual bag of books or ingredients, he was carrying a large box wrapped in colorful paper. "What's that?" Chloe asked, her eyes shining with curiosity. "A present," Nathan replied, "but it's too big to open in here. Let's go outside." They went down to the common area of the building, where there was a small courtyard. Nathan placed the box on the ground and helped Chloe remove the paper. When the contents were revealed, Chloe let out a cry of joy. A bicycle! It was a small bicycle, perfect for a 5-year-old. Pink with white details, with a basket on the front and training wheels on the sides. "Is it mine?" Chloe asked, incredulous. "Yours," Nathan confirmed. "I thought you might want to learn how to ride." Chloe threw herself into his arms, hugging him with all the strength her small legs allowed. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Jenna watched the scene with a tight feeling in her heart. It was an expensive gift, she knew, but she also knew that Nathan wasn't trying to buy Chloe's affection. He was genuinely happy to see her joy. "Did you know how to ride a bike when you were little?" Chloe asked Nathan. "I learned when I was 6. "My dad taught me. Can you teach me?" "It would be an honor." The first attempts were disastrous. Even with the training wheels, Chloe was too nervous to keep her balance. She gripped the handlebars so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "Relax," Nathan said, running alongside her while holding the bike. "Trust me. I won't let you fall. What if I fall? If you fall, I'll help you up and we'll try again." Little by little, Chloe gained confidence. Nathan was incredibly patient, never getting annoyed when she planted her feet on the ground or when she screamed in fear. He would just stop, calm her down, and they would start over. "You're doing great," he would say. "Very well." Jenna watched from a nearby bench, impressed by Nathan's patience. He seemed genuinely happy to spend the whole afternoon teaching Chloe, even when she fell and scraped her knee, even when she cried in frustration. "I can't do it," Chloe said after a particularly bad fall. "You can," Nathan said, helping her up. "You're the bravest girl I know." "Dragons tremble when they see you coming." Chloe laughed through her tears. "Dragons don't exist." "They don't. Then what are these fears you face every time you get on the bike?" Chloe considered this. "Fear dragons." "Exactly. And you're beating them." Late in the afternoon, as the sun began to set, something changed. Chloe was pedaling with Nathan holding the bike when she suddenly realized he had let go. She was riding by herself. For a few glorious feet, Chloe pedaled independently, the wind in her blonde hair, a huge smile on her face. "Look, Daddy!" she shouted. "I did it!" Nathan stopped in his tracks. Jenna felt the air leave her lungs. Daddy. Chloe had called Nathan Daddy. When she finally stopped the bike, with Nathan's help who had run after her, Chloe was radiant. Did you see? I rode all by myself." "I saw," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. "You were amazing." Only then did Chloe seem to realize what she had said. She looked at Nathan, then at Jenna, suddenly insecure. "Sorry," she murmured. "I didn't mean to. You don't need to apologize," Nathan said, kneeling to her level. "It was the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me." Jenna watched the scene with shining eyes, her heart so full it hurt. She saw Nathan hug Chloe, saw the pure joy on both their faces, saw the moment a family truly formed. It wasn't a conscious decision. It wasn't something planned or discussed. It was just a moment of pure happiness, where a 5-year-old girl expressed what she felt in her heart, and Nathan, Jenna realized, was crying. Silent tears streamed down his face as he held Chloe, and Jenna understood that this meant as much to him as it meant to them. That afternoon in the building's courtyard, with a pink bicycle and the sun setting on the horizon, they became a family. Not on paper, not officially, but in what really mattered. It was a quiet Thursday evening when Jenna finally shared her most guarded dream. Chloe had fallen asleep on the sofa after dinner, exhausted from another afternoon of learning to ride her bike with Nathan. He had carefully carried her to her room, covering her with her favorite blanket, the one with little stars that she insisted on using every night. When they returned to the living room, Jenna prepared tea for them both, a ritual that had become natural in recent months. They sat on the sofa, in the comfortable silence of two people who no longer needed to fill every moment with words. "Nathan," Jenna said suddenly, stirring her cup distractedly. Can I tell you something?" "Something I've never told anyone." Nathan turned to her, giving her his full attention. "Always." Jenna took a deep breath, as if preparing for a leap. "I've always dreamed of having a little candy shop." "Really?" "A small one, just for me and Chloe. A place to start over." The words came out slowly, as if she were testing how they sounded out loud. "Ever since I was a child, I loved to cook. My grandmother taught me how to make cakes, pies, little sweets. It was our special time." Nathan listened attentively, seeing the sparkle in her green eyes as she spoke. "When Chloe was born," Jenna continued, "I used to imagine the two of us in a little kitchen making cakes together. Her helping me mix the batter, smearing her face with chocolate." A small smile appeared on her lips. "Silly dreamer mum stuff." "It's not silly," Nathan said softly. "Yes, it is. A shop costs money. A lot of money. And I never even had enough to buy a donut for my daughter." The reference to their first meeting made Nathan smile. How far they had come since that Sunday in the park. "And what would this shop be like?" he asked. Jenna's eyes lit up. Small and cozy, with colorful display cases full of homemade sweets, the smell of cake always in the air, little tables where people could sit and talk, and a kitchen where I could teach Chloe everything my grandmother taught me. It sounds perfect. "It's just a dream," Jenna said, reality returning to her voice. Dreams don't pay the bills. Nathan was silent for a moment, then gently took her hand. That dream still exists, he said, looking directly into her eyes. Zeiss and I want to help you make it happen. Jenna felt tears prick her eyes. Nathan, you don't have to. It's not about having to. It's about wanting to. It's about believing in you, in your talent, in what you two can build together. It would be a lot of responsibility. What if it fails? What if it succeeds? Nathan countered gently. Jenna, you make the best cakes I've ever tasted in my life. Why not share that with the world? Jenna held back her tears, trying to maintain her composure. Thank you. It's a chance to start over. I know that. Then let's start over. Together. It was at that moment that Chloe appeared at the living room door, still sleepy, holding a piece of cake left over from dinner. Mommy makes the best cake in the world, she exclaimed, her mouth full of chocolate. Everyone has to try it. Nathan and Jenna laughed, and Nathan took the opportunity to wink at Jenna. See? Even our expert consultant agrees. Expert consultant? Chloe asked, confused. You, Nathan explained. You're going to help us make Mommy's candy shop. Chloe's eyes widened. A real shop. A real shop, Jenna confirmed, finally smiling completely. 3 months later, the dream became a reality. The shop was exactly as Jenna had imagined. Small, cozy, with large windows that let in natural light. The colorful display cases showed off cakes, pies, cupcakes, and little sweets that made anyone stop to admire. The sweet smell of freshly baked cake always lingered in the air, inviting and comforting. On a Saturday afternoon, Jenna was behind the counter arranging a tray of chocolate truffles when a little girl came in with her mother. The girl, with brown hair and curious eyes, was fascinated by the display of colorful donuts. Mommy, can I have one? She asked, pointing to a donut with pink sprinkles. The mother hesitated, clearly calculating the money in her wallet. It was a scene Jenna knew all too well. It was then that Chloe, who was sitting on a stool behind the counter drawing, got up and took the donut the girl had chosen. You can have it, Chloe said, holding out the donut with a huge smile. It's on the house. Thank you, the girl said, biting into the donut immediately. It's delicious. My mommy made it, Chloe said proudly. She makes the best sweets in the world. Nathan, who was wiping the counter with a cloth, approached, smiling. Looks like we have a new tradition here. Jenna arranged the tray of truffles, watching the interaction with a full heart. A tradition. The first donut of the day is always on the house, Nathan suggested, for someone who needs a little sweetness in their life. The little girl and her mother left the shop smiling, and Jenna looked around the space they had created together. Chloe had returned to her drawings, her legs swinging on the stool. Nathan was finishing wiping the counter, whistling a soft tune. It was exactly as she had dreamed, even better. Nathan, she called softly. Yes? Thank you, for believing in my dream, for helping us build this. Nathan stopped cleaning and looked at her. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. Chloe looked up from her drawing. What are you guys doing? Being grateful, Jenna answered. For having each other, Nathan said, running a hand through Chloe's blonde hair. For having this shop, for having a family. I'm grateful too, Chloe said. Because now I can give donuts to sad kids, just like Nathan did for me. Jenna and Nathan looked at each other over Chloe's head, both understanding that they had created something much bigger than a simple candy shop. As the sun began to set, they closed the shop together. Chloe put away her drawings while Jenna cleaned the last tray, and Nathan organized the chairs. Before leaving, Jenna looked one last time at the space that was now theirs. The shop's name, Sweet Dreams, shone softly in the display window. Family, truth, a new beginning. It had all started with a simple donut on a sunny Sunday, and now there they were, a real family, building dreams together, proving that the sweetest endings begin with the simplest gestures.